gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's October the 26th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health and our series looking towards the future of the Miami Hurricanes, partially because the present is so hard for all of us to deal with these days. So we continue to look towards the future. And today we're looking towards the future of the tight end position, and we're looking towards the future of the wide receiver position. So we'll be talking about both of those. Matt, let's start with the receivers. So much to talk about there. And I would have said, Miami absolutely does not have a number one receiver. Restrepo's been hurt, but he's not really a number one. Latson's certainly not a number one. Jacoby George, Brinson, Michael Redding. Brashard Smith is a good complimentary guy. He's not really a number one. Keyshawn Smith has totally disappeared from this football team. Isaiah Horton hasn't done much. The one guy this entire season that has stepped up and made a statement for himself is Colby Young, who has come out of nowhere these last 3 weeks, Matt, to become as important to this football team, I'll say, as anybody on it. Like, I'll include Van Dyke. I'll include Lou Hedley. Who else did we have ranked high up there when we did the top 5? Will Mallory. I will say that Colby Young, in a span of a couple weeks, has become maybe the most important individual player. I mean, Messidor on defense, but I would say Colby Young is even impacting the game right now more than Messidor. How about that? And but here's my next question, Matt, as I give you the floor, that I see that you're anxiously awaiting that moment. Is Colby Young a number one receiver?
I'm going to tell one of my dreaded stories that everybody hates. Too bad, because Gary says it's the Matt Shodell show. That's his fault. So it was, I don't even know when. July, probably at some point. June. Actually, no, it can't have been July. It was in June. And I was on campus for, I don't even know why I was there. And, Mario Cristobal was in the indoor practice facility while I was there. And, we've known each other forever. You've known him forever. We covered the team. You covered the team when he was born. I covered the team when he was coaching here. And so we started talking. We hadn't really had a chance to have a deep conversation. He'd been so busy. And one of the first things he said to me, he said, wait until you get your eyes on this JUCO kid, Colby Young. He says, this kid is special. And kudos to Mario for recognizing Colby Young's talent when nobody else did. I mean, he only had minor offers. There were other programs that looked at him, major programs, but they didn't offer him or really chase him in the end. Mario also shared with me that he didn't think the receiving roster was particularly good, which is not a secret to anybody. It's the truth, and it was the truth, and he recognized the truth. And I was nice enough not to report it, because that's not what you do when a coach just tells you something that's not on the record, hypothetically. I didn't say, was that on the record? Can I tell everyone the receiving core is terrible? No. Or not good. I shouldn't say terrible. Not good, which were his words. And that's why they brought in Colby Young. He recognized there was an issue with the receiving core. And, I keep track of your arguments and my arguments, Gary. And I am 98, 2-1. And one of my losses was I thought the receiving core would be fine. Even when Mario told me it wasn't going to be good, I thought, he just really hasn't seen Xavier Restrepo. He just really hasn't seen Jacoby George and what they can actually do. And at the end of the day, the 3 best receivers on this team are the Colby Young that he recognized. Why? First of all, why he didn't play him earlier, I don't know. I know the kid was banged up a little bit. I'm sorry, the young man was banged up a little bit, but he could have played. He was available to play.
You want me to answer that now or after you're done talking?
I mean, he could have. He didn't play till the
I
fourth
can tell you
quarter.
exactly why he didn't play.
Oh, because he didn't understand the plays. I understand that, Gary.
He got dropped off in July. He didn't know anything.
But we already discussed this. He
was not in shape. He was not in shape to play.
What's he been doing, Gary? He's been running go routes constantly. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. He
ran more than go routes this past week.
For you to argue he shouldn't have been on the field the first 5 games is ridiculous. I'm not even going to go there.
I'm not making that argument, but I understand why he wasn't.
I don't understand why he wasn't. Anyway, that's not what it's about. He was
banged up for a few of them, I'm pretty sure.
Just in the beginning, but he was available. He didn't even play the first 3 quarters against North Carolina. He was available. He didn't play.
He was available till they put him out there. I mean, they didn't. This wasn't just suddenly a surprise. It's not like they'd never saw
put him in until the 4th quarter of the one game where he started to shine. They could have put him in the first 3 quarters if he was so great. Anyway,
now that's a good point. That is a great point.
Whatever. Colby Young, good for them recognizing the talent. Whether they should have played him earlier, whatever. Xavier Restrepo is in my opinion, a great receiver. He's hurt. Frank Ladson, in my opinion, was another guy that they misevaluated that probably is the number 3 wide receiver on this team, and they just didn't use him until the 4th game, I think it was. So Colby Young, Xavier Restrepo, and Frank Ladson, if those 3 guys are healthy, I would argue that my loss to you, where you said on Good Morning CaneSport the receivers were terrible in the preseason, I said they're going to be fine. That loss was actually a win for me. Just the coaches didn't play the right guys. Should have been Xavier healthy, Frank Ladson, and Colby Young. Those are 3 really, really good wide receivers. And then the wide receiver core.
I think you could throw Rashard Smith and Jacoby George in there too.
Well, I mean, those are guys to me. Those are guys.
They are guys. They're all guys.
Yeah, to me,
Frank Ladson's just a guy.
To me, Colby Young is special. Xavier Restrepo is special, and Frank Ladson has the speed and the ability. His hands are quite the question, but he has every other intangible to be special. When you look at Brashard, he's good, but you don't see, like with Frank Ladson, you see the physicality, the speed. That's why he was a 5-star, high 4-star recruit out of high school, because of those intangibles. He hasn't really translated them well enough. And Brashard was a 4-star in his own right, but he's not the biggest, fastest, tallest. He's just very, flashy in space, can make guys miss, but he's not going to break tackles and things like that. And Jacoby George, he has flat out speed, but he just isn't really, I still think he's a little too light. I think he's getting pushed around a little too much. And he just hasn't really broken out. He was suspended, then he was hurt. So it's been tough with him to really get a gauge. But those 3 guys, I would argue, that's a pretty solid wide receiver core. And those 3 guys are all going to be back. And I think that's good enough. And now you've got to bring in some young guys. Like, I don't want more transfers.
Well, you're going to add Nathaniel Joseph to that.
Correct.
You're going to add Robbie Washington to that. Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be. They'll try to recruit at least one more freshman.
Well, they need a bigger receiver. They need a Hakeem Williams. That's what they need.
I don't think
if they could get a Hakeem or even an Andy Jean, that's what you need.
I'm not sure Andy Jean's stock is as high as it was.
I understand that, but a guy like that.
I talked to Zuby about him the other day, who's been out to a couple of their practices and games and stuff, and he said that he said he wasn't like overwhelmed with Andy Jean, that Andy Jean isn't really doing much. And, I don't think he's at the Robbie Washington, Ray Joseph level. But we'll see what they end up. I think they'll look for another freshman receiver, and I think they'll look for at least one receiver in the portal too.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. Don't waste your time in the portal. This Restrepo, Young, and Ladson, that's good enough. Get as many young guys behind them as you can to be ready in year 2. Because, again, I'm thinking about the future. I'm not thinking, let's win next year. Like, next year's not the year they're going to win a championship again. Like, you made that mistake this year, Gary. Mario Cristobal made that mistake this year, taking 12 transfers, thinking, I want to win now. Now you're 12 of 85. He's stuck with 10% or whatever it is, more than 10% of the roster being transfers. Man.
You're playing the result, and it's easy to play the result.
I'm not playing the result because I said it when he took the transfers not to do it. That's not playing the result.
But here's my point. Like, if they don't have all these injuries that they've had, I don't think they have 4 losses right now. I think they have 1 or 2 losses right now. I think all the injuries for a team that has no depth, just like
who's injured on defense? Who's injured on defense, Gary?
Huh?
Who's injured right now on defense? What major playmakers are injured on defense that's causing all these problems?
I'm talking about the offensive injuries.
Well, what about the defense? They've had all sorts of problems.
Yeah, the defense.
Why do you think they're a one-loss team with this defense? Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think that they would have scored more. I mean, what that would have meant to Middle Tennessee. I don't know. Like that's the aberration on the schedule. But they lost a 3-point game to North Carolina. I think they win that one if they were whole. I think maybe they win. Maybe Texas A&M if it was a little bit better at that point. I mean,
listen,
I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here.
I want some of those Gary Ferman gummy bears you're selling on CaneSport.com because I don't see it. But anyway, my point is we're talking about the future. The future is really, really, really bright as long as they don't fill this roster up with secondhand guys from other places, unless it's an NFL level talent from an Alabama who's a backup behind a senior, or an Ohio State who's a backup behind a senior NFL talent. Like, I don't need these fourth string running backs.
Yeah, I agree with. Don't just take Jags in the portal. I agree. I want Messidor level players, Colby Young level players,
and Darrell Jackson. Those are the only 2 out of those 12 that I would say.
Yeah, you want
that's who you take next year. Those 2 guys, and that's it. Yeah. Like Henry Parrish, as much as they need him this year, I don't need him stacking up a spot in the roster just because we're building for 3 to 4 years from now to be a championship team. If you're not a championship level player, I don't want you. I want a freshman who's going to be championship level in 2 years versus a guy who's above average and is ready now, but is taking up that spot that a freshman could have. That's all.
If a Miami that might be a 500 team at best can recruit enough of those guys, I agree. And I
find out because that's what they are.
Find out. As part of that, I would say I agree with you. Don't take Jags in the portal.
I don't call them Jags. I call them Fermans.
Well, let me just give my thoughts. Okay, on these receivers. Latson. He's just been okay. I mean, he has not had a major impact on this season. He's made a few catches, but nothing special. The guy to me that has been the biggest disappointment is Romello Brinson. It is clear to me that he is somebody headed to the transfer portal. I don't know. I don't see that changing that situation.
Do you remember that conversation we had about Do you remember the conversation we had about Brinson when we were watching fall drills?
What did we say? Oh, how skinny! Yeah, he looked like he hadn't worked the whole summer.
His legs were. I could have put.
There's like stick figures. Yeah,
it was insane. I've never seen a receiver that had not bulked up at all. I mean, he actually had gotten thinner from the year before.
Yeah,
which you and I were saying, is that by design? That doesn't really make sense.
No chance it was by design.
No.
The guy I think that there's hope for that can get better than what he is right now is Jacoby George. I think that against Duke last week, they started featuring a little bit. He showed some talent that we hadn't seen a lot of before. I mean, that one play that he had in the Texas A&M game was sensational. That's one of the best pass plays of the season where he split those 2 defenders and had that big gainer. I have hope for Jacoby George. I haven't given up on him. Yeah. Brashard Smith, ever since they sat down with him and his parents and basically said, hey, Brashard, it's time. Okay. We need you. We are going to feature you. You need to respond, and you need to respond on and off the field. And since that meeting took place, Matt, he's been a whole different player. And I know he was hurt last week and couldn't play against Duke, but he's been doing much better. To me, the biggest mystery of the season has been Keyshawn Smith. Where has he been? He's had a couple good kickoff returns. They're barely playing him on offense. Why? What is going on? That's a question I think that we have to file away and ask Josh Gaddis next Monday when we get the opportunity to speak to him. Because I can't. If somebody said to me, "What's the heck has happened to Keyshawn Smith?" I could not answer that question. It's inexplicable. He is getting minimal number of reps, and he's making a very minimal impact on the football game. And then even last week against Duke, when he had a kickoff return, he's carrying the damn ball on his inside hand, and it gets stripped and was one of 8 turnovers in the game. This is why the Miami Hurricanes...
And they put him right back out there for the next kickoff return.
And they put him right back out there, didn't they, Matt? You're absolutely right. And this is why the Miami Hurricanes are not very good right now. They're not winning because basic fundamentals are just falling apart during games. I mean, I don't understand. These kids, they're taught the proper way to hold the football when you're running with it from the time that they are in peewee ball, okay? That's one of the first things a football coach at any level teaches anybody. You carry the ball in your outside hand and you protect it properly, okay? And it can be done. I was watching the Dolphin game the other night, and it really registered on me how well-schooled those guys are at carrying the football and how they protect the football. And you don't see the Dolphins fumbling the ball very much. And they're really good at protecting the football. It can be done. It can be taught. It can be followed. I'm going to assume it's being taught in practice. I don't understand why, when the games start, these basic fundamentals are breaking down. The fundamentals of tackling. Why is James Williams still trying to shoulder tackle everybody instead of wrapping them up? They practice it every single day on Green Tree. Okay. Why, when you get out on the field, does it all go by the wayside? Same thing with Keontra Smith. I have never seen maybe a worse tackling game from a linebacker than we saw on Saturday from Keontra Smith. And, that's why Duke is running for 200 yards and going up the field and having a 17-play drive for a touchdown, because the basic fundamentals that these kids are being taught they're just like throwing them in the garbage can on game day, and it's part of what's making the Miami Hurricanes a not real good team right now. But yes, Keyshawn Smith has been one of the mysteries of the season. Maybe there's an explanation for it, so I'm not going to call him a disappointment just yet. But it is very obvious that he is not impacting the football games the way that it was perceived that he would. Michael Redding, I'm pretty sure, is still banged up. Isaiah Horton's been getting a little bit of playing time, but not getting much done. Restrepo hasn't played. Hopefully, at some point here, he comes off the injury list in the next, maybe in time for the Florida State game or something. They get him back. But as we talk about the future of this wide receiver position, I'm going to come back to my original question, Matt. Is Colby Young clearly the best performer at receiver this year? Is Colby Young a number one receiver?
Well, obviously. But, going back to the
is it really obviously? Like, how do you define a number one receiver?
A guy who got back-to-back 100-yard games for the first time since Charleston Rambo. But going back to your more interesting point, which is why are they all making mistakes? Well, they're all making mistakes, because they want to be heroes in the game, which it happens at every school. The difference at Miami right now, and the difference that it's been at Miami recently, is when you want to be a hero at an Alabama or an Ohio State, or name the school, and you make that stupid play where you're either trying to do someone else's job, or you wander, or your eye discipline, and it creates a big hole or a big play for the other team, an explosive play. At those other schools, you're pulled off the field for a series, for whatever, for a quarter, sometimes for even more. It's like in basketball, right? You've seen the great coaches in basketball pull their entire starting lineup out of the game and put in every single backup to send a message. The only thing that gets through to a football player sometimes is playing time. Playing time. You can make a guy do roly-polies up and down Green Tree all day long and have him thrown up in the sand pit, whatever. They will still make the same mistakes, but when you take away their playing time, that's their money. And that's when they're like, damn, I better do what the coaches are telling me, or I'm not going to play, and I'm not going to get paid, And they're not taking away playing time, and they're not punishing anybody with a lack of playing time. They keep putting the same guys and leaving the same. Oh, Jalen, you fumbled twice in 2 games. You fumbled the 3rd time. We'll keep playing you. Don't worry about it. Oh, Keyshawn, you fumbled the kickoff return. Go make up for it this next kickoff return. No. The number 2 kickoff return guy is now the guy, Keyshawn. Sorry, let's see if he can do a better job, make some big plays, and now you're on the bench, And that's how a guy learns a lesson. And the next time he gets a chance, he'll do what he's supposed to. You say they're not doing what the coaches are teaching them. It's because the coaches aren't disciplining them when they don't do what they're taught. If your child is, constantly turning on your stove and burning food, trying to make, banana bread, like, are you going to say, okay, just keep doing it? Or are you going to say you can't use the stove for a month and tape the little levers shut so they can't even access it? Like, they're just leaving the stove on and letting the players keep burning the banana bread.
Yeah. you're not disciplining that naked orchid plant behind you either. Like, what is that thing doing there? It doesn't have a single freaking petal.
It's
It
not
is a
in
naked
season,
orchid
bro.
plant. It doesn't have one flower on it. It doesn't have one petal. And you are leaving that orchid plant sitting on your futon bed over there for what? At least I can explain why the Miami Hurricane coaches are leaving those players in. It's because they are trying to win football games desperately, and they don't feel they have the reinforcements behind these guys to pull them out of the game. That's got to be the reason. Because what you're saying makes total sense for a change again. But like, there's got to be a reason they're not doing it, and that has to be the reason. Like, I don't have anybody else to return kickoffs. Brashard Smith is hurt. Keyshawn is the only guy that I can put back there to do it. And if I pull him and discipline him for fumbling, I'm making my team worse.
Guess what? There's a guy in practice who's the second team kickoff return guy. Okay. I don't care what you say. If the second team guy's hurt, there's a new second team guy. They keep saying next man up. Are they lying? Is there no next man up? Is it now the no man up philosophy? Because that's what they've been doing. Hey, everybody, we're the Miami Hurricanes. We have a no man up philosophy. No matter how many mistakes you make, you're still the starter. You're still going to play. Don't even worry about it. Just keep doing whatever, man. Keep burning the banana bread. It's all good, bro. I got that freaking plant behind me, Gary, because you know what? I'm nurturing it to life. And if it doesn't come back to life, I'm going to destroy it, and it'll be next man up, because that's how I live my life.
Oh, glad to hear it. It is a cute little plant.
I have a next plant up. It's a next plant up philosophy.
I can see the charm of that plant. I do see a little green down in the base. I mean,
yeah, it's fine. It's not in season. You're the guy who eats the undersized lobster and catches snook out of season. Like, I don't do that. I am patient. I nurture my orchid, and when it's time for it to bloom, it's amazing, and I will show it to you. I'll take a picture of it in bloom, and you will lose your SHIT for those of you that know how to spell out there, who are over the age of, 5? How old do people learn how to spell now? 6? I don't know.
When is orchid season?
Orchid season, I don't know.
When will we see some flowers?
When the flowers show up, then it's orchid season. The orchid tells me when it's orchid season. I don't tell the orchid when it's orchid season, okay?
All right, so that's the wide receiver position. Matt says yes, Colby Young is the number 1 receiver. I'm not sure. To me, he's a number 2 receiver. I believe my eyes. I believe what I see, and I say what I see. Yeah, I believe what I saw against Duke this past weekend and what we saw against North Carolina. I'm not sure that we will see it that easily against Clemson.
I will add with Colby Young, I don't think that that the last 2 teams have really tried to stop him with help over the top from the safeties. They didn't really think, okay, Colby Young, the JUCO guy nobody wanted, is going to beat us. I think now with a decent enough Virginia defense, I think they're going to give him a lot more attention and say, I don't see anyone else in this offense that's doing anything, so let's focus on Colby Young. And if he doesn't respond, we can have another discussion about that after the game. But as of right now, yeah, he's a number 1 receiver because he's the only receiver who's doing anything.
They did expand his route trees in the Duke game. He was doing more than just run go routes, and I think that contributed quite a bit to his effectiveness. I think he had like 120 yards or whatever. But I like him a lot. Obviously, I've been very impressed. I too said, "Oh my God, where has this guy been all year? Like, why? Why couldn't he have just been healthy? Why couldn't he have just been in shape? Why couldn't he have just known the playbook? Why couldn't all of the excuses that would be made for why he was not playing to this point be thrown in the garbage can? Because he clearly could have helped a little bit. Is he a number 1 receiver? My definition of a number 1 receiver is a guy that runs at least 4.4, that is just an absolute beast that opposing teams have to game plan for. And maybe Colby Young is on the borderline of that. I do think opponents are going to have to be very aware of him, the way he's playing. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Miami doesn't need somebody even the next notch higher than him that they can pair with him next season. So we'll see. We'll see if they get it through reciprocal recruiting. You're going to have a couple more reinforcements coming in Robbie Washington and Ray Joseph. Hopefully Restrepo's healthy for the whole year. Suddenly the receiver position with maybe one more dude could be one of the strengths of the team. And, that's obviously nothing but a positive. Matt, now let's shift gears over to the tight end position. Obviously Will Mallory is going to be gone. Arroyo hopefully will recover. It looks to me when I saw him like he definitely had knee surgery, and I'm guessing it was probably an ACL, but they don't tell us this. So we don't know that for sure. But hopefully Arroyo is back for next season. He was really looking good. And he's an example of what I'm talking about, Matt. What if Arroyo hadn't gotten hurt? That would have helped them a little bit. But the one I'm really concerned about, Matt, right now, before we talk about obviously the freshmen, Riley Williams, Reed McKeska, Jackson Carver, that are going to be coming in. The three extremely talented, good-looking tight end prospects. The guy that I'm real concerned about and who really needs to get his SHIT, as you say, together is Jaleel Skinner, man. He looks flat ugly trying to catch a football right now. Flat ugly. That drop in the Duke game was horrendous. And he's got to work, man. If he's not living at the jugs machine, then he's part of the problem here in terms of players not working hard enough to maximize their ability, because he is just flat not very good at catching a football right now. He needs to be different than that next season, or these other guys might pass him by, and this great recruit, Jaleel Skinner, Matt, might never have a great career at Miami and might end up in the transfer portal or something, because they're not going to be able to wait for him much more than next season with all these guys coming in.
Well, you could play this again next year. He'll be fine. Okay, I'm on the record. He will be fine. He has to work on his hands, and he will. But the biggest problem, the tight ends, as bad as some positions have been, the biggest disappointment for me all year across all positions by far for me is tight end, only because I studied Josh Gaddis's film from Michigan. I did a million preview stories when he first came in, and his offense really is predicated on the tight ends, not as receivers necessarily, but as run blockers. And when you see this fifth year, is he a fifth-year senior or sixth-year senior? Whatever Will Mallory is, okay? He's 38 years old, and he's got a 38.2 run blocking grade from Pro Football Focus, matching his age, okay? I'm only slightly exaggerating his age. Jaleel Skinner, 35.9 run blocking grade. And you look at Jaleel Skinner, and he's, skinny. I mean, his name is Skinner. He is skinny, and he needs to put on weight. So the fact that he and Will Mallory, who's been in this program forever, have the same run blocking grade is a little scary. And then Elijah Arroyo, who you think could have helped him so much, he's got a 43.4 run blocking grade. And that was how they were using him. They were using Elijah as an H-back to basically be a lead blocker, and he was failing miserably. I don't know if it was his knee problem or whatever, but before he went out injured, he was just walking into the blocks, not charging into them, nothing like that. It was frankly strange. And that is the problem. The problem isn't that, Jaleel Skinner's dropping passes. Where was Will Mallory the first 4 games as a receiver? All fans see is, are they catching passes for yards? Are they breaking tackles and running for touchdowns? But in Josh Gaddis's offense, if you don't have good run blocking tight ends to help an average to below average offensive line size-wise and strength-wise, you're finished, man. And the tight end core has failed miserably. This was supposed to be one of the top tight end cores in the ACC, if not the nation. It has become a below average unit, certainly a bad unit in run blocking, maybe an average to a little above average unit as receivers. And that's not good enough if you're trying to run the Josh Gaddis style of offense.
I don't think he's targeting the tight ends enough. I mean, look at the last game. Will Mallory gets a ball and makes a massive play. I mean, he gets the ball in a crossing route across the middle and races 30. I forget the yardage of the play, but races for a 34-yard touchdown play. And I'm not sure. I'm looking right now. He only had 4 targets, 2 catches against Duke, a game they got blown out. I mean, that's not enough, man. I mean, I get the whole thing. The talent's down. The players aren't performing, yada, yada, yada. We knew what we were getting ourselves into and all that. But, that's not maximizing what you do have when Will Mallory only gets 4 targets. So I think Mario Cristobal has been let down a little bit by his offensive coordinator in some of these ways. You go into a 2-minute offense and your first 3 plays are runs up the middle. Now, I get it. You could spin that. You're trying to catch them. They're pinning their ears back. You're thinking if you run the ball, maybe you could sneak a big gainer out of it and all that. But I'm not buying any of that right now. I mean, I think they wasted like a minute and 20 seconds or so running the football in a 2-minute drill. And then they ended up being all hasty and screwed up at the end, and they threw the interception, because they were in desperation mode. So I think there's things that could get better, and one of them is get the ball to Will Mallory more. Okay.
First of all, Will Mallory has run the most pass routes, even with his blocking responsibilities, of any player on the team, receiver, running back, whoever. 203 pass routes he's run, and he has 25 catches. If he was so open all the time, and he doesn't have the top end speed over a safety, okay, but he's got a size advantage over a safety. He's got a speed advantage against a linebacker, but he's physically, can be manhandled by them. I don't know. I have to look at the film, but I don't know that he's that wide open. If he was that wide open all the time, they would be throwing him the ball. It's not like they're saying don't throw it to Will Mallory. He's always one of the first reads, I would think. And the fact he's got 25 catches out of 203 routes run tells me he's probably not getting that wide open all the time.
All right. So the tight end position, I think, is in a good place with the young kids coming in, but Skinner's got to get his act together. Arroyo has to get healthy, and then we'll feel pretty good about it going into next season. All right. We got a few more stories to talk about today, but first, let's hear from our friends at LifeWallet.
Hey sis, want to play one-on-one? What about 3-on-3? Let's do it. You're not Haley. Wait a minute.
LifeWallet user not detected.
I knew it.
Secure your health information and privacy with LifeWallet. LifeWallet. Saving time, saving lives.
Still think that was probably the best produced commercial that they've done over there at LifeWallet. Anyway, other things to talk about today in basketball. Well, the season's coming up fast, and Jim Martz breaks down his thoughts on Coach Jim Larrañaga. And we also have a CaneSport TV interview today with one of the stars of the team, preseason All-ACC guard Isaiah Wong. So don't miss both of those stories. We have updates from Colby Young and Will Mallory, also on the website today. Plus, we catch up with 2024 defensive end Steven Souls. He has landed a Miami offer, and he talks about where things stand there. So that's going to do it today for Good Morning CaneSport. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you, as always, for starting your day out with us, and really appreciate it. Hit your like button, hit your subscribe button. Help us with the people at YouTube and their algorithms, and subscribe to CaneSport.com. It's the final couple days of our $1 site move special for all Miami fans. If you haven't taken advantage of that, please do so here in the next couple days so that you can enjoy CaneSport.com for that discounted price all the way up to the start of next football season. So thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you next time, everybody.